But let's start with the June 1 cuts. This seems like there's going to be like a second wave of free agency more than usual this year in particular because the cap is down and everyone has to. There's like a technicality that I don't really feel like explaining, but just know that it exists. And June 1 is a magic day.
More or less, what it is when post June 1, it lets you extend the money out further. So like normally it would, if you cut them now, if you cut them pre June 1, it would hit your cap now this year. Where if post June 1, it gets strung out over the
2 years, right? 2 years, yeah. So that's why a lot of teams are going to do that. And there are some potential big names that could be available. We could go back and forth, but who are some June 1 cuts you think the Niners should be looking at? Potential ones.
I looked up. Apparently, there's already had been some designated by teams for them, like back in even February. So I think Malik Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, and Kyle Rudolph and Trey Boston were 4 names that I saw that teams had already designated for June 1 cuts. The 2 ones out of that group that I like that kind of stood out were Trey Boston and Kyle Rudolph, because I think the Niners could use another safety. I love Jimmy Ward and I love Jaquiski Tartt. I just don't trust them to play the entire year.
Yeah.
That's why I was looking for them to draft a safety, because I don't trust Travaris Moore either.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna need another safety that they can play. And Kyle Rudolph, it's a little intriguing because I know there's Dwelly, but and I'd like to see if Dwelly is what you think he is, the greatest tight end of all time. But if he's not, I would like to have another tight end. I know that's what they planned for Jordan Reed and all that, but another tight end you can use. It's cheaper than paying for a wide receiver.
Yeah, it seems like there's some other tight ends that could be cut as well. I mean, Zach Ertz, Cameron Brate, Eric Ebron. Now, none of these guys are really in Ross Dwelly's class, but it's always good to have a third tight end.
Yeah.
And if George Kittle goes down, then all of a sudden Dwelly's your number 1, and you need a number 2.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see which one of those guys would Kyle might be interested in, right? Like, Ebron is the guy that's the physical freak out of them, but not the greatest blocker,
right?
The other guys are. I think
Cameron Brate's a lot like Ross Dwelly. When I first saw Ross Dwelly, I was like, he's kind of like Cameron Brate. So if they want to bring in Brate, Brate's really good. Actually, I always thought Brate was really good.
Yeah, and yeah. You're probably bringing these guys on a deal where it's a 1-year deal. It's not if it's guaranteed, there'll be very little guaranteed, and you bring them in. And if Ross Dwelly's better, then you come and you let Ross Dwelly play, or you keep him on your roster and like Ross Dwelly just gets all the PT. And if Ross is or George gets hurt, then you still have 2 viable tight ends.
What do you think, Sterling Shepard? You think he gets cut?
I think he's a candidate too. That's another one. Like there's going to be receivers out there that I think. I just mentioned Alshon Jeffrey, but there's going to be receivers out there that Sterling Shepard. He's a possibility. I think there's another. The teams that if Green Bay happens to make that trade for Julio Jones, Marquez Valdez-Scantling might be a guy that they released to make cap room. There's I would Sterling Shepard's intriguing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely intriguing. Yeah.
We mentioned some of the Eagles. The Falcons. I think Grady Jarrett might be a candidate, but I don't think they need to do anything on the defensive line aside from if there is an edge guy out there. But I don't see any.
About Landon Collins.
Landon Collins, no. He can't cover. He's just a backer. I mean, if you want to get if you it depends what do I have to pay him. If I can pay him and I'm like, hey Landon, you're gonna play weak side backer. Okay.
Yeah.
If I don't have to pay him a lot to do that,